Democratic State Representative Donna Howard of Austin and chair of the Texas Women's Health Caucus. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So, as you know, Democrats are really pushing hard on the reproductive rights, abortion rights issue this election season, and not only nationally, but here in Texas as well. And so I'm wondering, when this took place 2 years ago, it didn't really impact the elections in Texas then. Why do you think it will be different now?
A lot has happened since the last election cycle and this one. Primarily, I think all of the women and now men too, who have publicly and on a national scale talked about the issues that they've had with not getting the medical care that they've needed with pregnancy complications, being on the brink of dying before they can get medical interventions. So I think that has really raised the consciousness of a lot of folks, more so than it was prior to the last election cycle, which of course, even at that time, some displeasure from Republicans in particular about the extreme bans here in Texas and how we had gone too far did have an impact on the last legislative session. We did not see more of an effort to do anything more with abortions in terms of some of the things that were discussed, like preventing people from being able to cross state lines, preventing employers from being able to provide assistance to their employees. Those kinds of things didn't happen. And in fact, we saw an effort to do more to help women access health care. And I think that was a direct response to what had been going on in the political cycle to say, hey, we may have gone too far in there. We really care about women. We really care about their health care. We really care about babies. So it was a little different than it is now. Very different, I think, that we're seeing in this cycle.
And I know that more than 20 women came forward to sue the state of Texas over what they said were very vague rules that they had to leave the state to get an abortion, women like Kate Cox and others. And so I'm wondering, is there any indication of just how many women have been put in that position?
You know, we don't have numbers tracking of that sort of thing, so I can't really say what those numbers are. I think it's pretty amazing that we've had those 20 come forward with an actual lawsuit. You know that that's the tip of the iceberg, many more beyond that. And we've heard anecdotally from physicians that they have had to turn their patients away, basically, tell them to travel out of state, that they haven't been able to feel comfortable to intervene, knowing that they risk losing their medical license, paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines, and actually going to prison for 99 years. It's a huge risk that they would be taking. So don't have those exact numbers, but know that it's much greater than the tip of that iceberg of 20.
But Republicans have pushed back on that, saying that their laws are in fact clear and that the hospital's attorneys really need to focus on that and tell doctors what the rules are, what they can and cannot do. What do you say to that?
Well, first of all, I would say that's politicians making statements about what is appropriate in the language for medical professionals who are practicing medicine. The ones who are actually practicing medicine are saying that it is not clear. So I side with those who actually practice medicine. Of course, the lawsuit that you refer to went to the Supreme Court, which punted it to our Texas Medical Board for clarification, which punted it back to the legislature. No one is willing to make these clarifications, knowing that these women are put on the brink of dying, and is now coming back to the legislature, which hopefully, because of everything that's been going on, we will see some action taken this next legislative session to provide that clarity.
Such as?
I don't have the exact language. I did have a bill last session that I worked with the OB-GYNs on to try to come up with language that would have been broad enough to encompass their medical judgment. And I think that's really the two key words that it comes down to is medical judgment.
Let me go
Yeah,
back.
let me
Oh,
just say,
I'm sorry.
prior to
Yeah.
all of this happening, physicians were intervening in these medical complications on a regular basis without anybody questioning it. They were using their medical judgment. They were treating these people without incident, even in our Catholic hospitals. So this has been standard medical practice that now, because of the language in the law that they find to be unclear and that it puts them at severe risk, they are hesitant to intervene.
The Texas Alliance for Life put out a statement this past week saying that, I don't know if you saw it, but that there were 95 abortions performed to save a mother's life since September of 2022, when the new law went into effect after the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. What do you make of that? Doesn't it show that these are being performed?
Certainly they're being performed. I don't have anything to compare that to prior to 2022 as to how many abortions were performed because of some medical complication. Prior to that time, the records that the state of Texas were keeping were on elective abortions and not on medically necessary abortions. So I don't have anything to compare it to. The reporting now is because every abortion is being reported, and quite frankly, here it's semantics. Prior to this legislation, prior to the whole Roe v. Wade overturning, people thought of abortion in a very narrow scope. But abortion is exactly the same procedure that's used in medical complications. So now we're seeing, yes, that they are being reported, but I have nothing to compare it to because we don't have medically necessary abortions being reported before then.
With regards to the potential political impact that this issue will have, as far as when you look at the polls, most polls still show the economy, inflation, border security remain the top concerns, and abortion, reproductive rights is further down the list. So given that, how do you expect it to be more of an impact, to play more of a deciding role, perhaps, in some of these races?
Well, I would suggest that abortion is an economic issue because it impacts the trajectory, the journey, the destiny of women who find themselves with unplanned pregnancies. I came of age before Roe v. Wade. I know what it was like when you didn't have a choice. I've seen over the past half century women be able to make choices about their education, about their employment, about if and when to have a family. And it has allowed them to be more a part of our economy, quite frankly. So I would suggest that abortion is part of the economic issue. And further, wherever it falls on the list, the fact is that people are recognizing, number one, that a right that they thought they had is no longer there. And number two, that this affects probably many, many more families than anybody ever anticipated, because miscarriages and medical complications from pregnancy really affect many, many Americans. And so I think that those two things are having an impact on people saying, maybe I do need to vote here. Maybe I do need to be looking at who's going to be making decisions that allow me to have autonomy over my own life, over my own destiny.
Former President Donald Trump has said that this should really be now left up to the states, and that if he is to be elected, he's just going to leave it there. And yet a lot of Democrats don't believe that and are worried that if the Republicans not only retake the White House, but gain a majority in both houses of Congress, that there will be a national abortion ban passed. Why do you believe that, first of all, and why so?
Well, certainly I don't know what to believe because he has said a variety of things and flip-flops back and forth on that. I do know that there are those within the so-called pro-life movement who feel like there should be no exceptions, and they have a very straight line between what is okay and what is not okay, and do not want anybody to cross that line. They helped get him elected last time. They are working for him this time. And I think you saw pushback from those groups when he did waffle, I don't know if that's the right word, but when he did indicate that he might be willing to look at something different in terms of what's the appropriate time frame in which you could have an abortion. So I don't know, obviously, what he's going to do. I don't think I can trust what he says because he has said different things over a period of time. I will say that having different rules in different states is not a workable situation. When you have people in Texas having to travel to other states where abortion healthcare is still legal, not only is that a burden on Texans to have to make travel arrangements, to make childcare arrangements, to make work arrangements, to be able to do that, but you also then have the added burden on the states that are offering abortion healthcare, not only to their own constituents, but now to all those coming in from other states. And of course, again, you're talking about people who have the means to travel to do that. In Texas, more than half of our births are Medicaid births, people who do not have resources. So what we're talking about here is people who have the resources being able to travel to other states. Those who do not are being forced to carry pregnancies that they were not planning to have. So there's a lot of impacts here, I think, and I would obviously much rather see us going back to a time when we have a national protection for access to abortion health care.
Democratic State Representative Donna Howard of Austin and Chair of the Texas Women's Health Caucus. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.